Hey peeps and everyone at our channel. It is time for another childhood stories growing up with so-and-so. So this was one I was really trying not to have to do. At this point, my strategy here has changed. And I have other reasons for why I am doing this at this point. So, you guys might notice I have my Sylvia Browne autographed box set right there. You can see it there. She autographed it for me. So, let's talk about one of the most amazing women I have ever met in my life. And rest in peace. She passed away years ago. I'm still not over it. I'm still, I still grieve sometimes. She apparently passed away of a heart A sort of situation. I think maybe it should be looked into, given the fact that my family may have had access to contractors. So let's talk about the amazing person that Sylvia was. She was one of the most inspirational women that I knew growing up, and I feel beyond blessed to have been able to learn from her. Now, some people will cite James Randi's attempts to discredit her. What I can say about Sylvia Browne is, from my experience, she was the real deal. She was, they said she had this gift at like the age of 5. This would have been before modern technology. So like when we talk about certain types of W gear and contractors, certain types of gear had not even been in use or on the market or patented back when Sylvia was born and at that age. So that could not account for her gift. Now, when we talk about people like Monica the Medium is actually a former Lockheed employee. So is the dad in the Turpin case. Just to throw that out there. Go Google it. We'll talk more about Tyler Henry's mom's case and about her evil mother, Stella, who seemed to, she reminds me a lot of my mother. And I wouldn't be surprised if in that case they may have had access to contractors. In Monica the Medium's case, that is also possible. I think in Monica's case, she started developing those abilities in her teen years. So that technology might have been around at the time. I am referring to a patent from 1969. People can go Google it. It's a military patent that was acquired. And you saw in my previous video about how Lockheed might have had people on the board of directors at UC San Diego Hospital in the position of security and risk management. They also had these same people on the board at the Mayo Clinic. Go Google it for yourself. I put a document in my last video so you guys can see proof. So Sylvia just had this gift naturally growing up, and so did I. My grandma documented my first thing when I was still in diapers. I apparently bolted up from the diaper changing table, pointed to a place in the room and said that I saw a deceased auntie's spirit. And then I was able to pick her out of photo albums later, and this woman had passed before I was even born. I would not have known who she even was at that time. And I think I told my grandma that she was looking over us and sending her love. And my grandma wrote a short story about it. I actually went to try to find that because she gave me copies of it before she passed. She wanted that to be documented and known. Now, my grandmother was the person who was friends with Sylvia. My grandmother kind of lived away from all of this, away from the family, had her own life. My grandmother was a professional astrologer. And because of my grandmother, I got a chance to learn from some of the most awesome, I don't like to use the word guru, but in the New Age community, that's the word that ended up sticking. I like to say spiritual teachers because you will find a lot of different beliefs, very eclectic beliefs. Each author and lecturer in that category, they have their own things that they're learning about, researching, practicing, whether it's Native American beliefs, whether it's Christian beliefs, whether it's, other types of stuff. The New Age area encompasses everything. It's just kind of an open-minded spiritual view set is how I would best describe it. Some people say it's evil. I don't think so, because I think in a lot of ways it can enhance Christianity or your other spiritual practices. So as a kid, I was pretty open to it, but also it was the only way I was going to be able to learn about why I could do the things I could do. So my grandma had a group of friends, we'll just call them her awesome lady squad, and these ladies would come over and study with her. They would do everything from, going to church together to studying various, whatever, everything from, like, I think at the time, Marianne Williamson was trying to help start AIDS clinics down in California during that epidemic. And so in those ways, that woman is also a hero to me. Very sweet, lovely woman. I liked her a whole lot. I think I only met her once or twice, but sitting there listening to her do a talk about the need for low-cost AIDS clinic. So at that time, I was like, this woman is going to go out and change the world. And Sylvia was the same to me. Now, Sylvia Browne actually did verify my abilities. I think my grandma had her test me a bit. And at that point, they were saving a bid to Hayhouse Publishing for me for when I grew up, which Miss Teal Swan ended up jacking from me, and I'm not supposed to say stuff like that. I'm not supposed to throw people under the bus, and I'm not trying to throw people under the bus. But Teal admitted it to me herself. Like, she literally came to me and said, I'm jacking your Hayhouse bid. Bye. And I think my mother might have been behind letting her do that. So every opportunity that like my grandmother and people who cared about me tried to provide for me just ended up getting yanked right out from under me. I think Teal ended up getting thrown out of Hayhouse, and I think she's had problems keeping publishers ever since. There are some allegations that certain people within her followers may have not made it. And I've got concerns there, but it's definitely not the route I would have taken if I had been able to publish with them. You guys can find my Grail Gospel up on my channel. I did start writing that book. I was hoping to publish it one day. Now, growing up, I got the opportunity to learn from all of these people. I got to read their books. I got to listen to their lectures. Things like when it came to things like Sylvia Browne discussing angels in one of her books, those were topics where, like, she might have, pardon me, she might have had an experience and then wanted to know other people's experiences. So sometimes, she would email my grandmother or us and just ask her fans, ask her followers, what are your thoughts on angels? What are your experiences with angels? she initially didn't think that angels had wings, and then I think she ended up correcting herself later. Like she was really great like that, where like she might have the impression of something and put it in one of her books, and then in a future book you might see that her view on that has changed a bit. And she never hid that. She would just come out and say, you know what, changing my mind on this. Like, I've learned more, and this is why I think this now. And I think it takes a real brave person to be a public figure and be able to do that and correct yourself in front of your audience. And that is how I know that she was a pretty honest person, because liars don't do stuff like that. They don't take risks with their career to be honest with their audience. Now, I'm going to address the issues with her former husband that she divorced. Apparently, there may have been a previous case where there might have been some not good loans. And Sylvia Browne had been on tour at the time. I can verify that. And she came home to a very big surprise from her husband, a not good one, and was pretty shocked and horrified. She seemed to me at the time to not have any idea what had been going on. And she did subsequently divorce the guy. And I just remember she was beside herself. You know, and I know there's been people that have been critical about, like, she used to do all the readings on Montel, and there were a few times that she may have gotten it wrong. Here's the thing about being psychics, and Sylvia Browne actually had her abilities tested. She went to a couple of different institutes, let them do some tests. She was found to be about 87% accurate, which is astounding, but it's not 100%. So here's the thing I'm going to say. No psychic is 100%. There's ones that are pretty close like that, and that because they are that good, they can make a career off of it. But even Sylvia she admitted those numbers and said, she wishes it was more in the 90s. She was aiming for like the 90 percentage. And so she was always trying to improve, but she didn't hide stuff like that from her audience. She would just say, no psychic is 100%. Those were the things that let me know she was an honest person, and those were the things that I really liked about her, that like she was demystifying it. She was saying, I went in, had these tests, they said it was about 87%, wasn't 100. Oh well, no one's perfect. Humans aren't perfect. Only God is perfect. Humans are fallible. Sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes we have off days. Now, what I want to say about her time on the Montel show was, A, she loved it a whole lot. We used to watch her every week. And B, she was touring very heavily, and I feel was overworked at that time. She was exhausted. She was on the verge of perpetual exhaustion during that time when she may have missed those few ones. And that was not intentional on her part. She does the best she can in the moment, and when you are that exhausted and that overworked and you are touring that constantly, I even noticed it in her. I was noticing from week to week she looked more and more tired. And anytime you work that hard, you run the risk of that kind of exhaustion. So that's what I always believed accounted for that. Sometimes you've got to give people leeway. They do the best they can to help, and it might not always be perfect, but she did get a whole lot of things right. So when it came to angels, she initially didn't believe that angels had wings, and that was because one night she was going to the bathroom, and she's sitting there, and she swears that an angel just showed up, like right in her entryway, and that it was really, really, really big, and she was pretty shocked that it didn't have wings. Now, when I had my coma experience, my near-D experience, and I went through the tunnel into the light and met that angel, I can say the same thing. She did not have wings. That is not to say that they don't have wings and can't manifest them when they want. Like we talked about the movie Dogma by Kevin Smith, and how sometimes in that movie they are depicted with wings and other times they are not. I think angels can choose, or at least maybe angels in certain phylums can choose. And I think that's kind of what we settled on. And that was one of those areas that Sylvia initially thought they didn't have wings, later corrected herself, as she continued to learn. But she was always getting feedback from her fans and whatnot, like, what are your experiences with this? And she would sometimes ask her fans, like, she used to have this chain email thing where she would be like, I'm working on these topics for my next book. If you have experience with these topics, send me your thoughts on them. What are your experiences? And I loved that about her. And there were so many times that her and I agreed 100% on things, where I would just be like, yep, that's what I think too. And that's how I knew she put a great deal of time and effort and research. Like, she wasn't just going on her experiences. She was collecting experiences from tons of people all over the place. And I think that's pretty awesome, because it's one thing to just sit there and say, you think this. It's another thing to do the research, to take the time to look into it, to get feedback from others. The other thing she was always doing was she was always learning from other gurus and people in the industry too. Hayhouse has a whole bunch of different amazing authors on their roster. Some of whom I know and some of whom I don't. Wayne Dyer's another example of a really, really great guy who has put a great deal of time and effort in research. He talks a lot about meditation, about positivity. He talks a lot about, he's really into like Hawaiian spirituality and culture. He actually taught me a lot about that too, just through his work. That was where I think he learned a lot about meditation and whatnot. And that helped me too a whole tremendous amount after my coma. So I have to thank him for that. For him doing that content and material in his books so that people like me could learn when we were going through stuff in our life where we needed that. He's also a really nice guy too. Got to meet him once after one of his lectures, and he invited me to sit down and eat with him and just sit and talk. And I was like, wow. It was a big fangirl moment for me, honestly. I didn't expect him to be that nice. I didn't expect him to be that nice and that gracious. And that's one thing I can say about a lot of the authors and lecturers in the New Age community that were around at the time, is these people were so great to their fans. And that leaves an impression. You can contrast that with my life in the rock music industry and rock stars. And okay, I'll say most of them were pretty cool and nice. Maybe not all of them, but a total difference there. It's one thing to get an autograph after a show. It's another thing when they will sit and talk with you about different spiritual ideas and stuff. And I think the way that a celebrity treats their fans is really indicative of the kind of person that they are too. I have found this to be mostly true, where how fans are treated really says a lot about the person. Sylvia treated her fans awesomely. Wayne Dyer treats its fans awesomely. And so I think there's something to be said there for being able to tell what kind of person someone is by the way they treat other people. And this is why when I say I have a lot of respect for somebody like Sylvia or Wayne, that is why. Because of their honesty, because of how they treat others. And I don't know what's happened to that in this world. I don't know where that has gone, where people just don't seem to care about that anymore, or at least not right now in culture. We need to get back to that. We need to get back to that. The whole purpose behind the New Age movement and all of these authors, trying to work together to educate others, was to help keep a world of compassion. Let's keep the humanity in human beings, and let's further knowledge about why we're here and what we're supposed to be learning. And like I said, I would have loved to have been able to become a minister and publish some of my own stuff like that, like that, and go into a dance academy, or like what I felt my callings were when I was young. I ended up having skills in a lot of different areas, in psychology and journalism, but those were the two big ones for me, was performing and helping others through spiritual stuff. And I never really got the chance to do as much of that as I wanted. That's why I put some of that content up on my channel. I might not ever be able to publish my gospel, so I just put it up there. And these are things that I learned growing up and through life that I hope can help other people, But I think this CD was autographed after a lecture at a meet and greet. And she gave me a big hug, and it was just the best day. It was just the best day for me. She was exhausted. It was like at the end of like we waited until like we let everybody else in the line go first. Because me and my grandma already knew her. So, I'm going to let people who have never had a chance to meet her and get her autograph to meet her first. So we hung back, and by then she was getting a bit older, so she gets real tired. The thing about using abilities like that is sometimes it drains you. Sometimes it leaves you exhausted. You do a public lecture and a reading, and you're giving readings to audience members all night long and doing a 2-hour lecture. You're exhausted by the end of it. And the fact that she could still sit there and be nice to fans afterwards is pretty amazing. Now, we can contrast that with some of the stories I've told about another rock band, where I said the fandom might have been not very healthy, where people didn't always feel like they were treated very well, where sometimes cruel pranks were played and stuff. Night and day difference there. Anyhow, Sylvia was kind of like, in a way, kind of like a second grandmother to me, in the fact that even if she was touring around the world, as she came out with her new books, I felt like she was still there giving me that life advice. It was just from a distance. It was just, she's busy touring the world. Here's her new book. And those were always really, really happy days for me whenever any of these authors came out with a new book. Back then, Marianne Williamson was studying A Course in Miracles really heavily, and that's one of my favorite books. And that's what her and I connected on was she published a book, I think it's called Return to Love, and it discusses themes and topics from A Course in Miracles that you know that's how I know what kind of person she is. That's how I know what an amazing person she is that she had kind of devoted her life to studying that stuff too. And I think her and I tended to think a lot alike that way. Like me and Sylvia did too. We thought a lot alike. You know who else I realized I think a lot alike? I was just noticing, like I was watching some old compilations of Guns N' Roses, like best moments and like stage antics. Like, you know, Axl's moments where he has to say something about something. And, you know, sometimes in the media, they would make him seem like a jerk for it. And, you know, sometimes us fans would be sitting there understanding exactly why he did that in that moment. And just kind of chuckling and laughing and being like, you go, you you know, I found myself saying a lot of the same sort of stuff throughout all of this. Like, as I was watching this compilation last night, I was like, OMG, I sound just like Axl. Holy crap, we think alike. And that was kind of like I don't know why I hadn't figured that out before. How long was it going to take me to realize that? I'm like part Axl Rose and part Sylvia Browne kind of like melded together. And I just kind of had that realization. And I was like, you know, he says things the exact same way that I do. Like he sometimes has the same sarcastic tone of voice that I do. It's like sometimes we're twinning or something. And I got a little bit of a chuckle out of that, and checking out some of these old concerts. I went back and watched their performance at the Ritz back in, what was it, 87. Oh my gosh, one of their best shows. And when I watch him on stage, I'm like, I would have done the exact same thing. Like, I would have made that same creative choice. And it's like every time he does that, I feel like I understand what's going on in his head in that moment. You know, why he did that certain dance move, why he threw that mic stand, you know, why he's dancing the way he is, you know, why he might stop and mention something. And sometimes you run across people like that in life where you find that like the way that you think just is samesies. And Sylvia was one of those people for me. And that was one of the things I loved the most about her, was that her and I just thought so much alike. I can say that about Wayne Dyer and Marianne too, but especially Sylvia. Like I think it's Sylvia and Axl, you know, like, yeah, where you just kind of feel like you get that person and how they think, and so that's one of the reasons why she was such a special person to me, somebody that I miss so much. I thought it was horrible how they treated her towards the end. This is one of those times where I have to say something unkind about someone, and James Randi can suck it. Like, what he did to her was beyond not okay. And there's probably more to that a lot of people in the public never knew about. And that happened shortly before her passing. I was surprised that she passed so young. It was a shock to me. I remember finding that out, going I can't even think about that moment, about the moment the media report came out on that. And I was just devastated. So now I'm gonna cry. So she was an amazing, inspirational lady. She's somebody that I would say definitely go back and read her books. It is possible that, yes, she may have predicted the COVID pandemic. Sometimes she would just catch a vibe like that and be like, I think this is something that might happen in the future, and I'm not quite sure how or why. And then she would turn out to be right so much of the time, like 87% of the time she would turn out to be right. Somewhere I used to have a pamphlet that listed some of her statistics in terms of what some of her testing came out as. There were certain institutes back at the time that were researching paranormal and psychic phenomenon. And somewhere I had a list of, like, these were all of her percentages that was like proof of this, that was proof that she was the real deal. Now, I can say she was the real deal with me. I can say that I feel like she was one of the most honest people. Like sometimes she could come across a little harsh. Like, she didn't candy coat stuff. She would just say it outright. And I liked that about her, that sometimes she would just say something very bluntly, and like, she knows you're not going to maybe like hearing it, but it's what you need to hear. And she was a big believer in God speaks through people, and that sometimes the message that you need to hear is not always the message that you want to hear. And she was a really good role model, and like, adult role model for us young people that way. And she would hold herself accountable too. Like, she held herself to that same standard. If she made a mistake, she would correct it in the media if she had to. If she had to address something in an interview or in her next book and correct herself, she would. And I had a tremendous amount of respect for her for that, because not everybody in the spotlight can do that. A lot of people, they make a mistake and then they try to spend the rest of their career downplaying it and shying away from it rather than discussing it. And, that was something that gave me a whole lot of respect for her. That's how you know somebody's a genuine person. So next we're going to have to talk about Monica the Medium and Tyler Henry, two other very talented, gifted people. Tyler Henry is pretty good at what he does, and some of the methods that he uses are very familiar to me, because this is how you learn in the New Age community growing up. Like, you learn different skills and methods for things, how to clear your mind. What one thing Tyler Henry does is he makes a lot of notes as he is getting different ideas coming in, and he's trying to sort it all out. And this was something Sylvia did too. Before she got really, really good, like she would sit and make notes as she was doing a reading on someone, because from what she said, she had a spirit guide named Francine and angels, and what she would say was that sometimes it was just a lot of information coming through psychically, and you don't want to miss any of it. So you learn to just jot it down, like and maybe some of those ideas will add up in the end, and you'll be like, oh, that's why that's why the angel said that, or you know what I mean. And Tyler Henry does some of that same stuff too. So I know that he's got some good training and is using some solid skills there. And I also just really like his smile a lot. He has such a great smile, and I think he just comes across so likable to people, and I think that makes people more willing to be open-minded to things when somebody is likable. And I hear he's pretty accurate too. It sounds like his mother went through the worst with her mother, and her mother sounds a lot like my mother. And all I can say is that I send my love to his mother for what she lived through, because I know what it feels like. And they might want to look into if Stella might have had access to contractors. There's been some things when they discussed that case in the media that made me wonder about that. So that would be my tip there. So yeah, so there was a lot of great stuff to learn in the New Age community back in the day. I wish they bring those days back, because I think we had a more compassionate world back then. We had people who were more open-minded to learning, and we were learning that spirituality didn't have to be just one way. There's so many different religions all over the world that teach so many great things. Sylvia, she was studying Hinduism. She was studying Gnosticism. She was studying Catholicism. She was studying Native American beliefs. She never quit learning. And I tried to live my life the same way too. And this is how Jesus lived too. Like everywhere Jesus traveled, he was learning from the communities that he lived with as he was teaching them. And they all had different ways of life. And that's just the way our world is that there's different ways of life, there's different cultures, there's different religions and traditions. We've all got to find a way to get along. They all have some beautiful stuff to teach. We can learn from a lot of them. And that doesn't mean that any of them are 100% right or 100% wrong. Religion is first and foremost supposed to enhance the quality of your life. It is supposed to give you a spiritual connection to your Creator. And it is supposed to teach you the life lessons that you need to get through this life, to treat others with respect, to value human life. And how each religion does that can be a bit different. But ideally, religion is supposed to enhance and complement your life. And I think people just try to find the one that fits closest to them. I like to not limit myself that way. Like I do identify as Christian and Native American. But I too have studied all the same stuff Sylvia has, and I still keep trying to learn. And I think that's the best way for the world. I would hate to see something like a one world religion and a one world currency, where freedom of choice isn't a thing anymore. That would be sad. Because think about all the thousands and thousands of years of human culture we would lose. People in India have been around for ages, for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Like they've got their genealogy documented for thousands of years. They've got their stories of the Brahmin coming down from the heavens, from the light, which is very similar to what you find in Gnosticism and in parts of Christianity with Jesus, being sent by God. So in a lot of ways, there's a lot of similarities too between religions. And I would just hate to see all of those thousands of years of human history go away. So I caution people for the future. You don't want to accept an antichrist. You don't want to accept a one world religion and currency. One size does not fit all when human beings are made to be unique individuals. God made each and every one of us to be unique individuals. We are each on our own path, and what works for one person might not for another. And, in America, we respect freedom of religion. Now, sadly, that also means that cults can get a foothold, and sometimes they're not great. So I do think there maybe should be some more checks and balances there. Sylvia tried to make her Nova Spiritus church to be distinctly non-culty. She wanted it to be an open-minded, where she was not saying this is how you've got to believe and think. This is what we're practicing right now. You can come practice with us. We're not limited to that, and you shouldn't have to be limited to that either. We're not telling you what to believe. And I love that. And I think that's the way it should be. So yeah, but like, who knows what we're going into here, guys. One of the visions I had as a little girl was seeing humanity end by 2030, or the vast majority of it. And that still hasn't gone away. Like, I still have those concerns, and I see now as like this pandemic happened, as it's looking like, all the makings for a possible WW sort of 3 sitch, that it's happening all the way that I foresaw it. And like I said, I know I said that I think Sylvia saw it too. I think she just didn't want to make her fans in public panic. But she did predict the pandemic, okay? I can verify that. It's in one of her books. I think Kim Kardashian discovered that and posted that. I can verify that also. She did predict it. So I think she saw some of this stuff happening too. And I think it scared her a bit too. And I think we need to be very careful how we proceed as humanity here. I think it needs to be all hands on deck to like prevent anything like that from happening. So hoping and praying for all of humanity here. You've had your teachers have been sent here. Sylvia was sent here. I was sent here. Jesus was sent here. You guys have had all the people sent here to learn from. Now we just got to see if humanity has learned, or are you guys just going to let this continue to backslide and devolve into humanity not being here anymore? I would hate to see that. I would hate to see that be the future for humanity if we don't fix some of these problems in society, if we don't address trying to prevent war before it gets started, if we don't, the way that they dropped the ball on the pandemic and it just spread so wildly out of control so quickly, and it was like, it didn't seem like they were doing enough. That's super concerning to me. That is super concerning to me. And it wasn't just any one person, it was everyone. They're not enforcing mask mandates in a lot of cities. The federal government isn't helping with stimulus. They run out of sanitizer, mask, medical supplies. Didn't seem like they were doing enough initially to get those things resolved. Like that should have been a declared emergency on day one. They should have gotten that stuff going the moment there was any inkling of a possible pandemic. And I'm sure Sylvia was here. She'd probably say the same. And I miss her, and I hope she's up in heaven, sitting outside the Akashic Records, having coffee with my grandma. And, I hope that when it's my time that I will get to join them up there. And then because I'm a Holy Family member and I love Axl so much, I'm saving a spot for them. Now, my grandma in heaven is not going to like Guns N' Roses concerts, but I think Sylvia might. So I got plans for heaven later. Like there's certain people I want up there. And, Sylvia Browne used to talk about what she saw in heaven in the Light City, and she would talk about the Hall of Records, and then when I had my coma experience, like, I think she was right. Like our experiences would have been very similar. So, it'll be interesting to see, how accurate that is once we're up there. So, if you want your chance to go to heaven, they say the Holy Family helps provide salvation. Jesus helped provide salvation. If you want your chance to go to heaven, it's called doing right in this world. It's called who has done right by me in my lifetime. And once I get up there, I will happily advocate to God for the people that help me in my life. And sadly, that means we'll be needing the Guns N' Roses boys in heaven. Okay, I'm taking that joke too far, aren't I? But I think it's a lovely sentiment, because I think one of the things that Axl cares most about, you won't find someone that cares more about their country than me and Axl, who is that patriotic and is that against oppressive regimes, to where he just never misses an opportunity there when he notices that stuff. And I have a lot of respect for him because of that. I have a ton of respect for him because of that, because he's saying the important stuff there, like how Sylvia Browne said the important stuff. And I think if you're going to have a big public platform like that, at least try to do some good with it. You know what I mean? So, I think the people that did that have earned their spot, and I have no regrets about that. Even if they weren't perfect people, no human being is perfect. Most rock stars lived wild and crazy lives. I had a pretty wild life too. It wasn't necessarily the life I chose. It was just kind of the life I was born into and thrown into. And next thing you know, all this wild stuff is happening around you. And then next thing you know, 40 years later, you have a lot of great stories to tell on YouTube. So I know some of my stories are pretty over the top, like, the time like the time at the Skinny Puppy listening party when I tried to storm out and they wouldn't let me leave, and it ended up being a hostage situation. So I grabbed Daenerys's boyfriend and made out with him on the dance floor because they wouldn't let me leave, and I was that ticked off at Ogre. Sometimes those things just happen. I didn't necessarily choose this life. And obviously I couldn't choose to leave that listening party on that night. So, sometimes you end up with hilarious stories like that later. I would have rather have gone to a dance academy, gotten my ministering credentials, and published with Hayhouse. That would have been more what I would have liked to have done. And I probably still would have gotten into music. It probably would have just been more like new age instrumental music. As you guys have noticed, I really like instrumental music a lot. I really like classical, EDM, all different types of music. Really love Native American music. And so that's probably more the direction that I would have gone in had it been my choice. So, I'm really grateful to people like Sylvia who help keep me grounded, who help teach me the stuff that I wanted to learn growing up, and who tried to use their platform to help the world and to do good in the world. And in some ways, I've got to put Axl in that category too, which I know is unexpected. Like you don't expect someone to be sitting there comparing Axl and Sylvia and saying, here's the ways that these two people were similar and why they are so extraordinary. But there you have it. There you have it. There you have it. Now, Axl's not someone that I know. I've never actually met him. I was just that little preteen fangirl. I don't have any of those kind of stories there for that. For the exception that I wonder if AP may have met him. Because I think he told a couple of stories where he might have, like I'm wondering if he might have gotten to go down to a recording session or something. And I'm still trying to remember that story too because I was so young. I was just that little preteen girl in a red flannel. you know, and I think what I liked was that he sometimes used his platform to say the important things that other people weren't, and then there's that talent, that voice, that stage presence. When you have that much talent and you use your platform to try to do a good thing, I give a lot of kudos for that. So, all right, so there's that story time. Hope you guys enjoyed. Go check out some of the other content on my channel. I also have a link where people can donate to my medical expenses and for me to get medical care if and when these facilities out here ever get their heads out of their butts and decide to let me get adequate medical care. But it will help with transportation costs to get to medical appointments, maybe a couple of repairs around the house. Currently, my disposal is out, which means I can't use my dishwasher or my kitchen sink because it's all connected together, so I can't use my kitchen right now. And a few little things like that. My garage door got messed up. So I'm having some expenses here that were not my fault. I've had a number of break-ins. They ripped my closet doors clean off. Like they are currently sitting. I should get a picture of them and post them. You guys want to see what my closet doors look like after they were ripped off in what seems to be a break-in. But yeah, since my family couldn't be bothered to come help me with any of that, I'll put the donation link below where people can donate if they want. You do so out of the kindness of your own heart. Nobody is obligated, but I am in a bad way here. If I don't figure something out, things are going to get real critical here. So for those who can do that, my appreciative thanks. Even any amount is okay, like even $5, better than nothing. These are things that I would have helped people with. Like here's one example. During the pandemic, I donated $80 to help. There was a case down, I think in California, of a lady who got emmed in front of her 5 birds, and her birds got pretty traumatized and were going to be needing some specialized care, and they were doing a fundraiser for the care of the birds. And I had already been going through all of this at the time, and I was like, I hope that's not where this ends with me. I feel for them. So I was always that kind of person that tried to help. I also sometimes would spend days or a week making homemade bird toys to donate to various rescues. We would just make like 3 or 4 big huge boxes of bird toys, and then just take them down to a shelter or rescue and donate them. So while all this was going on in my life, I was still trying to do good things in the world and still make a difference and still be a good person. You know, so I just hope there's people out there willing to do the same now when I am in my time of need. So I'll put the donation link in this. And yeah, we'll do another story time here soon. I've got to think of another one here that we can do next. So, all right, happy holidays, everybody. Whichever holidays you celebrate this time of year, happy holidays to all of you.